Come on in. This is one of our homes. This home was finished just 4 years ago, and represents, of course, something that my wife and I wanted, which was a more lodge feeling, arts and crafts feeling that represented what we wanted. You'll see again that 2¼ inch front door. Happens that the woods we chose were alder throughout most of the home. One of the things that we like about this room is just that it feels and reflects that arts and crafts feeling, from the cabinets that brace around the fireplace to the fireplace hearth, the sort of dramatic nature of it. We are looking west in this house, and it's one of the most challenging issues around here is dealing with the sun and finding ways to feature those elements. You can see the use by Jim of corner windows so that we can allow for views not only being towards the view to the west, but rather up the golf course and down up towards the tees. The beams in this home were a big part of making what is an otherwise very large room pull and feel personal, feel human-sized. And while all of this is structure and part of the frame of the home, the details were a big part of creating the look that my wife and I wanted. It got down to where, when we were deciding details, Jim had the idea of adding in this S detail, if you see in the beams, and I couldn't visualize it. Even though it was drawn in a picture, it didn't make sense to me. So they worked up a full template, came with a ladder, and put it up there so that my wife and I could visualize what they had seen in their eye. Here adjacent to the family room is, great room rather, is kind of an open area that gives you, defined by the change in ceiling height. So you'll see we've gone from the great room to a small pulled down ceiling with a coffer element in it. Actually, the company built this buffet for us, actually reflective of all the other cabinetry, but by using other woods and actually mixing woods, cherry with a bird's eye maple. And we just love it because it really connects the two spaces and defines further the dining room area. The kitchen is here, adjacent to the dining room. And this, of course, is really the heart of every home. The kitchen reflects where everybody gravitates to when you have a party. It's the heart of the home, and Jim treats it that way. It becomes something very critical and core to each design. When my wife and I were talking about kitchen, my wife cut out pictures from magazines of the kitchen she likes, of the cabinet she liked. She brought in pictures, and we showed those to the cabinet designer that this was the look, and we custom blended the stain so that it was reflective of just what we wanted. And you'll see, for example, one of the suggestions was that we paint the center island. We'd seen that look to give us relief from all the woodwork. But this is the room that really is where you live your life, and has to be dealt with or treated in a way very special to each homeowner. How they cook, where they cook, the working triangles so that it's comfortable to be in. Some of our homes will have built-in pantry cabinetry as opposed to a walk-in pantry, depending on how you live your life. You can see, for us, we wanted to have a place. Part of the interest in this sort of separation between dining room was we wanted to show off the dishes and china that we've collected over our lifetimes. And then the woods, for example, for us, my wife and I like the look of cherry, but cherry is not a stable wood, and therefore it darkens over time. So one of the decisions and conversations we had and talked about was we wanted, once we did a color for it, to be stable. So we went with alder in our cabinetry. It's a more shaker style, a clean line look. This is the stove that my wife and I talked about. We had envisioned a wool for a Viking, but when we actually, and that was actually in our contract as as an allowance item, but when we actually selected it, we went and looked at this stove, and my wife asked my opinion, and all I could do was get the feel of something, and yet this was a savings of $1,800, and that was something that they helped us and guided us to, and something that we would do for each client, to allow them to spend your money the way you would choose to spend it, not the way we choose to spend it. This is the family room. We spend a lot of our time here, not only watching TV, but my wife is an avid quilter, and so she's created this area for us to be both in the same space, but also allow for her work areas. You can see that it's the same rock work as in the great room, but by pulling the rock down and capping it with a more rustic juniper, this has a different feel. The whole room is more casual. You have the lookout of the loft area up above that opens this space up and gives it a lot of volume. And important to this design in our home was the fact that the great room faces to the west and our view of Mount Bachelor, but in this family room we're on the greens of 3 here at Broken Top, and so both are compelling reasons to want to incorporate them into the house, and Jim did a great job for us in making that happen. You can see in the house, because it sort of wings in 2 directions, there are 2 half baths downstairs, each a little different. For example, when we talked about the cabinetry for this bathroom, John, the cabinet designer, suggested that we create and build this piece of furniture with this archway that reflects that arch that you'll see in the kitchen and you see underneath, and sort of that idea of a theme or an element to the house. And we kind of went along for the ride and enjoyed talking about each of these things. It's probably appropriate to mention that for each client, you need an area that you come in and take off your shoes. Initially, our plan had an armoire here, but the more we discussed it, I'm getting to the point where it's hard. I like putting my shoes on sitting down. So an area to sit, for shoes to be put away, for coats to be hung. And then as we talked about it, my wife had the idea, what about, since we were arts and crafts, what about a beadboard backer, so that it would allow for a more arts and crafts feel, and they thought it was a great idea, and so it became a collaborative effort to come up with exactly what would make it work for us in our lives, and it's been perfect for our use. One of the things that has always impressed us about, as a client from us about Jim, is the use of the hallway, but having that hallway integrate with the adjoining rooms so it's not cut off and it becomes usable space. You can kind of bleed out or come out into these spaces. For example, I feel as if I'm in the great room, although I'm in my hall space. Jim's suggestion and the team's suggestion to build this as an armoire as opposed to a traditional closet for our guest coats and such. It gives the impression that this is continuing to be the room, and therefore you have that benefit of feeling the room. This is the master suite. Part of the whole design process, number one, was to talk about the furniture we had. Jim's first design had this room about a foot narrower, but we then talked about our furniture and how it would fit, and so we expanded the room a bit. You'll see the same repeating window details here as in all the bedrooms, as in the great room, that pattern of 3. And then what's important to us, being so close to the golf course, is the use of these patio elements that not only do they add for another living space off of the bedroom. We have furniture out here, we can sit out here. We took only 1 tree out during the building of the home because they were important to maintain. They're beautiful old ponderosas, but it also allows for a very private sense here because the overhang patios create almost a shadow line that allows for added privacy from the golf course players that go that way. Master bathroom is the last thing on this floor, and some of the things that are important to us about this room, my wife and I sat in bathtubs. The interior designers suggested where we should go, went with us. It was very important to me that we had a bathroom that fit me. The cabinets, you'll notice, are 2 inches lower for my wife because she's shorter than I and likes to wash her hair in the cabinets, in the sink. The walk-in showers. When we first moved in, my wife was bothered by this clear glass, so the interior designers came back in and sketched out some ideas and had a local craftsperson create this inlay of glass over that allows the light to come in but gave an added sense of privacy, and we think it goes with that arts and crafts feeling that we were trying for.